What's going on? And welcome to episode 17 of the Hike.files podcast. I'm your host, Kurt Zitzelman, and this week I'm going to ask the question, why does it always have to be haunted forests? I don't know if this is happening to anyone else, but I've noticed an uptick in videos of people going out to camp, and they just happen to be in a haunted forest. And some of these people, it seems like no matter where they go, they wind up in a haunted forest. So, look, I'm not going to sit here and bash the paranormal. I'm a skeptic believer. There's things I think that we just don't know, and I think we have to keep an open mind. And I would love to find evidence of the paranormal. I will also be the first one to tell you that if you spend, an extended amount of time outdoors, like I do, eventually you're gonna see or hear something that you just can't explain. You're gonna hear or see something that you just can't explain. Is it paranormal? Maybe. Is it just unexplained? Probably. But you never know. So I'm gonna say like 6 or 8 months ago, I started watching videos predominantly from creators in other countries. A lot of them in England, and mostly because they don't have access to the public lands like we do here in the United States. Here on the East Coast, I'm in Pennsylvania, and we have all kinds of state parks and state forests where you can go out and you can hike and camp and do all kinds of things. And on the west, western half of the U.S., you have more BLM land in national forests where it's the same thing, just these massive, large tracts of land that you can go out and hike and camp and do all kinds of fun stuff. And we also have so many long distance trails where you're out for, if you're going to do the whole trail, you could be out for months and you're just hiking and camping. We're pretty lucky that we have that here in the United States. You don't have that everywhere in the world. So I like to see how they get around those limitations and exactly what they do. And plus I want to see what their idea of outdoors is. And I was watching this one channel, and his channel name is Grizzly Gaz. Does some very cool outdoor stuff, and I really haven't seen a lot come out from him lately. I'm not sure, he's got something else going on or what's going on. But one of the first videos I saw from him was a return to a campsite that he had found that I guess he had gone to multiple times, but the last time he had been there, he had some weird stuff happen. So I went back and watched that first video, and it was weird. There's definitely, it sounded like somebody was outside his tent. There's weird noises. It sounded like someone was hitting trees with a stick or a rock or something like that. So he went out and he wanted to see if it happened again, and he set up a trail cam. And again, he caught noises of something outside camp, things moving, weird sounds. And then he showed his trail cam footage, and there was clearly somebody in his campsite. Like right outside his camp where he had the trail cam set up, someone had stood there for a while. I don't know if they didn't see the camera, but they had their back to the camera and they're just kind of looking in towards his campsite. And then they turned around, they walked past the camera, and then you see the camera kind of get disconnected from the tree and fall down. So it's really weird. Not paranormal, but it's really, really weird. And maybe because I watched that, I started seeing more people pop up where they're, weird things happening in the forest, weird sounds, and then it's haunted forest. And now it just seems like everything's haunted forest. I've got some titles here that I just did a real quick search on YouTube, and these are the titles that I found. 24 hours inside the world's most haunted forest. Then you've got the most haunted forest in America. You've got overnight in USA's most haunted forest, the New Jersey Devil. Who was watching us? One of the most haunted forests in North Ireland. The world's most haunted forest documentary. The most haunted forest in the world, demon caught on camera. Let's see, we got stranded in the most haunted forest in the world. The scariest night of our lives, camping overnight in the most haunted forest, the Skinwalker Forest. And then, what's the last one here? We got caught camping overnight in a haunted forest. and I've watched a couple of these. I've watched a couple of their channels, and it seems like it's always the same thing. Every time they go out, they're in a haunted location. Everything's haunted, and there's all kinds of activity. One of these, and I'm not going to say who, but one of these channels I caught absolutely. I know that everything he's doing is BS. He wound up going on his first, no, you can't see this, but air quotes, first solo overnight camping trip, and had set his tent up next to what is in the state of New York, a very recognizable trail marker. It's a trail marker used by a certain county, and they use it on all their trails. So that was the first, like, I kind of know where, like, the region that he's in. It's telling the story about this haunted stone building with candles on the table, and people just appear in there, or people disappear in there, and people feel like they're being lured in. And so he goes out. Of course, his cameras are dying. His batteries are getting drained. He hears a scream in the forest, which to me just sounded like an owl. And he decides to go hiking down this trail. He's hiking down the trail, and he sees a light in the distance, and he starts calling out to it, and he doesn't hear anything. Nobody calls back to him. And he hikes a little further, and the light disappears, and he goes a little further, and he comes around a corner, and there's this stone building. And as soon as I saw it, I knew exactly where he was. You're in a place called Hawkins Pond. It's not haunted. There's no stone building like he described in his story. So his story was BS. There's houses not far from there. And it's very obvious when you see this building. Immediate. The way it's laid out, where the water fountain is, the way there's like a fire pit on the inside. It's just very, there's no other place in that area that I know of that has a setup like that. And then he goes up and he tries to get into the bathrooms, and those doors have been locked. I mean, I've been going up there for 10 years, and those doors have never been open. They've always been locked. So he goes to get in one of the doors, and so it's locked. And he turns away, and all of a sudden he hears like a bang, like there's somebody in there. And he's like, somebody must be in there. Something's going on. Something's really weird here. So either a friend of his who he usually camps with was there, and he wasn't solo, and picked the lock and went inside, or he overdubbed the sound, because there's no other way to get into those bathrooms. There's no other way in. Now, it could have been an animal, I guess, but I mean, I've never heard an animal in there, and it's a stone building with steel doors. So I don't think any animals are getting in there. But yeah, when I saw that, and I was like, the channel's entertaining, but that was complete BS. And I was like, what else? What else is, these guys in this channel lying about? So I started watching more and more of these, and that's probably why I'm seeing so many of them now. But what I wanted to do was talk about this, because if you're new to camping or backpacking, and you're thinking about going solo, or even if you're going with a new group and you're all new, and you see videos like this, you're going to start to think that every time you go out in the woods, there's going to be a skinwalker or a ghost or the Jersey Devil or something out to get you. And I can only assure you that that is not the case. So way back when, myself and some friends, we did, I don't want to say it was investigations. We didn't have a lot of tools. We weren't scientific about it, but we did like ghost hunts, because we were all interested in paranormal, and we wanted answers, and we wanted our own answers, and we wanted to see, because, there's a lot of pictures, there's a lot of video, there's a lot of quote unquote proof on the internet. And we want to see how easy is it, or how hard is it to get evidence. And it's actually pretty hard. I'm not going to lie. It's pretty hard. We never really caught anything concrete. We had a couple of instances where we thought we caught something, and then we'd look at it a little bit more, a little closer, think about it for a little bit, try to find pictures from different angles, and then we'd figure it out. Like one looked like an orb with the silhouette of a cat in it, and it was pretty clear. And it turned out that it was just an old spackle bucket that was turned over, and it just caught the light the right way, and the camera couldn't focus on it. And we wound up seeing a picture from a different angle before I figured that out. But yeah, we're like, oh, this is really good evidence, and it really wasn't. So we found ways we'd actually intentionally try to fake things and then take pictures of it and see how realistic it really looked. And the more we did that, the more we realized that a lot of what we were seeing online could be explained by like lens flare or dust or shaky camera, digital artifacting. And then there's other things that you just can't explain. Not to absolutely prove that that's paranormal, but there's some things that you just can't explain. So as I watch these videos, I go back to what we used to do. And as people who were trying to prove as much as they were trying to disprove as what we did, and knowingly, and we didn't try to put anything out that we had faked as real. If we faked anything and we put it out as this is how we faked this to make it look like this. So we kind of had that skill. So I watch a lot of these, and a lot of times what they're doing is they're overlaying audio, which is really easy to do. I do it in my hiking video sometimes. If I'm doing like a slow motion or time lapse of me setting up the hammock and I don't want to play music, well, time lapse doesn't have any audio. So I'll go to another clip and I'll pull the audio out of that clip and I'll overlay it onto the clip that has no audio. So maybe there's a creek nearby. So I'll do the time lapse, and then I'll take the camera and I'll just record 30, 40 seconds, maybe a minute of audio of the creek. And then I'll just use that audio for the time lapse. Really easy to do. It's one of the most basic things you can do. And it's really easy to do in these haunted forests. Or a lot of times these guys will say they heard something. And they'll be like, I don't know if the camera picked that up. Well, no, it didn't, because you didn't hear anything. You're reacting to something that didn't happen. And you can always tell by their reactions, because they'll get absolutely terrified. And then it's like they forget it happened. They'll be scared out of their minds. They'll think they saw, glowing eyes behind a tree in front of them. And they'll be screaming and running around and pointing at that and jumping and hooting and hollering. And then they get in the tent and they're like, I'm just going to go to sleep now. No, you're not. You're probably not going to do that. I've thought I've seen things, and it'll turn out to be like, you'll be in a new camp, new area, and you'll turn and you'll have your headlight on. And as you turn, the headlight kind of goes past a branch or a leaf that kind of casts a shadow in a weird way on something behind the tree next to you. And it looks like there's something there. Or one of the big ones here is, you'll see these old trails where they used to use these reflective nails. So every once in a while, you'll just turn your headlight and you'll see like two trees next to each other that have these reflective nails that looks like eyes. You're like, whoa. And you go, oh my God. You don't even have to be looking for paranormal for that to freak you out if you're not expecting it. And I'm going to tell you something. When something really freaks you out outside, you don't just immediately, I'm just going to go to sleep now. It takes a minute for your adrenaline, and you don't forget that. So a lot of these reactions these guys give are just not good reactions. They're clearly either reacting to something that they know what it is and they're trying to act, or it's not there and they're overlaying it later, and maybe they don't get the timing quite right. You can also hear in some of the audio, if you're wearing headphones, you can actually hear like whatever the sound is will come through a lot clearer than the rest of the audio, and it'll cut over everything. It's not in the background. So a lot of times their editing is not great. But then a lot of them also like to use phone apps for what is generally called like a spirit box or a ghost box, something like that, where they will ask questions to whatever spirits may be around. And they'll be like, you can use this device I'm holding to communicate, and it will, tell me what you're saying. There's a big problem with these. First of all, cell phones aren't designed to be paranormal test equipment. They're not scientific equipment. And most of those apps, they have, at least all the ones I've seen, have a built-in dictionary of words that they can say. They might have 5,000 words that they can say. And of course, because it's made for paranormal investigations, quote, it's going to be kind of the spookiest words that they can think of. Some of the apps, though, allow you to edit those dictionaries, those directory of words. So if you know that you're going to build a story in a video, and you're going to a spot that has no history, and you're going to make that history up like some of these channels do, you're going to put words into that dictionary, words and phrases that when they're spoken will validify what you're saying the story is. And it makes it seem very legit. But it's all a con. Now, I'm not going to say that every channel out there is doing this, or that there's no woods or forests in the world that are haunted or could be haunted. Is it possible? Yes. But don't not go out because you think the woods are haunted and they're just trying to kill you. You should be more worried about going to an area that's got, known people, like actual living people who will go into the woods and cause problems. And that can be an issue in some areas. So you've got to keep that in mind. That is the biggest concern I always have, is that you're going to come across real, actual people that mean to do you harm or even just cause mischief. Not ghosts in haunted woods. So if you've seen any of these and you're watching them thinking, man, being outside is scary, don't put too much faith in it. Because a lot of times, especially when they start putting, like I'm looking at some of these titles I pulled up, and you've got like some words are just capitalized, like the demon caught on camera is capitalized, and most haunted forest in Ireland, like it's all New Jersey devil is in capitals, right? That's clickbait. They're looking to draw you in with a fun title and then do some clever editing to make you think it's haunted. Now, I do watch some of these just because they are entertaining, and I like to see how good their editing skills are. And maybe they got a cool story, or maybe it's a forest that I know, and maybe I can go out and do that. But when I see them making up BS stories about forests that I know, and they're getting all kinds of crazy things happen, then I know most of their content is going to be garbage. So, do you know of any haunted forests here on the East Coast that you've heard stories of? Because if there's one that's close enough, maybe I'll go out and just do my own camp and see if anything happens. That'd be kind of cool. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. A little bit different than what I usually do here on Hike Files, but it is hike related. And these videos have been kind of driving me nuts with this. And I can see how people might get discouraged from going out if they think that everything's haunted. Because these channels do overreact to everything completely. A lot of screaming and running around. If that's how you really react to things, you shouldn't be in the woods. A couple of them carry guns. And that terrifies me. That is what you should be scared of. Because if they're that antsy about everything and they got a gun, I don't want them anywhere near me. I don't know about you. If you guys do have somewhere that you think would be kind of cool to do as a haunted camp, I'd be down for it. Let me know. You can shoot me an email at hike.files@gmail.com. Or you can leave, if you're watching this on On YouTube, you can leave a comment down the bottom. And on Spotify, you can leave a voice message on the podcast. You can go in there and just click on leave voice message. And I'll get that and see what we can find out. It might be fun. I'd definitely be down for doing it. I kind of miss doing those ghost hunts. I don't have any of that equipment anymore, but who knows? I do tend to, if there's something weird that happens, even if it's explainable, I usually pick up on it. I usually am like, hey, did anybody else hear that? Or did anybody else see that? And I'll go look around. I've heard, there was one trip where I was in the Catskills with Dragon and Panda, and I'd gotten up ahead of him a little bit, and I heard this really high-pitched noise. And the last time I was in that area, I heard this really high-pitched noise, but it was only on the trail. It was only in like this one little spot, like in a 1 foot section of the trail. When I stepped through, I'd hear this wee, and I'd disappear, and I'd back up and wee, and I'd get back in the spot, and I could hear it. It was off to my left. And I'm standing there. I'm like, I remember hearing this in this general area. I don't know if it's the exact same spot. But I remember hearing this like a couple years ago when I was here. And I'm like, what? There's got to be something off in the distance that's just maybe a factory, and that sound just travels in a straight line and is very directional. So I'm standing and I'm looking. And so I start moving like in different directions, trying to see if I can figure out what it is. And I notice it sounds like it's coming from a particular spot about 20 feet off the trail. And I start walking over there, and it's getting louder and louder and louder. And I see it. It's this little green fly. I think it was green. Little green bug. And it was just hovering there. And it made this really high-pitched wee sound. And I'm just looking at it. And I kind of put my hand out, and it flew away. And I went back to that spot in the trail, and it stopped. I'm like, oh, there's just this weird kind of bug out here that makes this directional sound. That is this high-pitched kind of buzzing sound. It was crazy. And Dragon's looking at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, no, I could hear that bug from over here. And he's like, are you sure? But yeah, so a lot of times if there's weird things like that, I'll wind up picking up on them. So yeah, we'd definitely be down for going and doing some kind of haunted forest, because I'd like to see if I got anything. But that's going to do it for me for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Talk to you in the next.